impressive profile, and I couldn't help myself being curious about how did you manage switching between different variety of career, switching from rocketry. Now you're in IT, and how do you keep up with the area that you're working on from a learning standpoint?
I think the honest answer would be by not really trying to manage, right? And then taking quick decisions, right? I generally don't get paralyzed by. I don't get paralyzed by decision making. So everybody has a personality. I've never taken more than 3 to 5 minutes for my life's critical decisions. That probably comes from combat zone where you don't have time to think. So that is one. Number two, I think learning to learn, right? I think it is very critical. I've always had very good founders and mentors who are always, learning. They're learning all the time. As you go higher, your competence index comes down. Because my ability to code in Python in 2012 was very different from my ability to code today. And hopefully I don't need to code anymore because I can use a cursor or something like that. But the point is that, number one, you're not a tree, you're mobile, right? As humans, we have mobility. We should be willing to move where there is value to be added, learning to learn, reading constantly. I've always been a voracious reader, reading constantly. And then I think number two is, there are no safe bets, right? You need to take your risks. Sometimes they will not play out, and sometimes they do. In my case, I was fortunate, it did. Right? So, and don't get misled by my resume. There were many moments of depression I've had. Anybody who tells you that they've become CXOs of companies without going through pain, you should talk to my wife. She'll tell you the hardships she went through. Right? So it's not a linear path. And a little bit of blessing, a lot of hard work, and honesty, integrity. It's very important.
So time is 12:25, so we will try to see that how we can try to wrap it up between 1:10 to 1:15. So thanks a lot, esteemed panelists. So really glad to stand in front of this august audience and also distinguished panelists. So thankful. I just wanted to quickly provide you some view on what we are trying to do as a GPEN. Maybe another 3-4 minutes, and then we will jump in directly into the fireside chat. We are going to have a very interesting conversation today. It's going to be a true fireside chat, at least to my eyes at this moment, and to your ears, it will be definitely. So with that said, this is just a intro slide where we started way back in November 2024 as a Chennai platform engineering community, and we are in the 7th event today. This is our 7th event. And so far, many people have supported us, MP2, 4, and then Uni, SQ1, and thanks Grid for partnering with us on this. Our next event is going to be on May 30th in a company called Presidio in Chennai. So I want many of you to take this opportunity to visit that event as well on May 30th. So this is our sort of quick journey. And what we are here trying to do. So we transformed ourselves from a Chennai platform engineering to the global platform engineers network. It's not just a verbatim change, it's the mind shift change. We want to break the glass ceiling of just confined to having a face-to-face meetups to really try to think global, being a community group, driving for innovation and value creation. And we want to purposefully target for technical excellence and engineering excellence, and we want to typically embrace the digital transformation which the world is going through in many fashions, including AI. And so this is where we started. From today we are opening ourselves from the website as well. So thanks a lot to our whole team who had put together on the spot. So feel free to click this and ours is 1,500 members in the Meetup group today. And we aspire to grow and contribute more to this community. So please join hands and then contribute, be a speaker, be a host, and be a strategic partner to help us to progress on this journey. And with that, I happened to go attend the CEO Summit organized by IDC. IDC is a research firm. Yesterday, I happened in Chennai in IDC Grand Shola. IDC does the CEO Summit every year. And there are some stunning artifacts which I could listen, and then I just summarized in 3 slides. I want to make this available for this conversation to start with. So I want Casey, Prani, and Rajiv to also reflect on while we are embarking this FSC, right? And by 2029, IDC expects that there will be close to 1 billion plus agents, daily actions close to 217 billion through these agents, and tokens per day, it will be somewhere 3.7 trillion tokens, and delivery cost will be hovering around $68 billion on this aspect. The landscape of the companies will move from their service catalog with the people. It will also carry a word called agents. They will say 40,000 employees and 25,000 agents. And the one what you are seeing here is the true picture today. We all know and read Gartner reports. Today, Gartner tells that I have 40,000 employees and 25,000 agents. And these agents doing various roles, including search, synthesis, customer facing and internal facing, and various non-client specific actions. All this it does. Moving on. Today, almost every segment, every domain, they are touching this agentic revolution. The top one is the IT. IT touches at 41%. At 41%, many of my peers who are sitting here can echo that. We are reaching the anxiety levels in a very different pedigree, right? So think through this 40% reaches to 80% or 90%, how the transformation will be. I want all of us to really understand and internalize what the change and anticipation will bring and how we have to equip ourselves. That's the true purpose of this conversation today. The screen in the slide, what it talks is, IT is at 41, customer service related, adopting 39, and then the last one is legal with 13. But there are items which are related to marketing, sales, finance, supply chain, human capital, research and development, and procurement. There is a clear shift which is happening in the industry. Who is the winners and who is the losers? The winners are typically the apps who are consolidating their efforts through the platform. The losers are the ones who are still relying in the silos, who still believe that they will still operate at a bespoke model. They will still go for the talent arbitrage. That will never survive according to the research firms, what they are saying. We need to move towards the platform-centric approach for adopting agentic AI for the acceleration of the business models, irrespective of the domains. And with that, this is the final thought slide which I want to share. This is Surya Kumar from Walmart. He's the CTO. What he says is a very powerful thing. Today, Walmart is operating from bots to super agents. And he categorized that power of agentic AI to transform industries is phenomenal. They have been building agents which are fast in every aspect of their business. And it's customer facing or associate or sales or partnership, they have agents for everything. And it is not just the starting point, probably it is the tipping point for us to introspect. with this as a sowing seeds for today's conversation. Thank you, Casey. Casey is my childhood friend. We started our learnings from LKG till 12th, and then he went on to engineering, I went on to diploma. And good to see you here. And then Parni, my partner in crime in many things, so thank you, Parni, and thanks for spending your time. And Rajiv, being a mentor and guide, so thanks a lot for your presence today. Look at how we want to segment this conversation today. We really want to clearly see that these platform engineering agents, is it a reality or something is still in dark side? How can we shed more light on that part? It's a pretty broad topic for a Fireside chat. So we want to compartmentalize into 4 broader areas. We will take each of this as a segment and demystify from the harsh one, right? So the first one is we will talk about how do we build a platform agents in a proper SDLC manner. We are talking about a typical production-centric capability on the agent layer. We need to have this conversation so that how do we have these frameworks to be adopted. And then the second round will be on identifying the golden paths for these agents. What it matters to deliver the value. So that's where we are. And then the third one is, why we do all this? Is to create the experience for the developer to be more productive. And how do we translate the metrics and value creation into the developer experience? And finally, the real BIGO, right? So governance, risk, and compliance. And these are the 4 things. Every segment we will try to spend some 10 minutes with 4 rounds, and we'll go through this conversation. So with that, so I'll start with probably Casey. Can I take this as an advantage? How do you see yourself? Mike is there, so probably take that. How do you see yourself building a platform agents SDLC?
So yeah, I'll begin from what you just quoted from ITC, especially ITC talking about the agents are exploding. And we are going to have human plus agent combinations in the future. I think that's, to some extent, it started services as well. Since most of, I come from a services background, so I take things like this from services. While the IT ops is one of the another area that we have highlighted in the graph is getting disrupted big time because of the agency. We're specifically coming to platform engineering part of it, which happens to be the foundation of most of the platform being built. There's a big fundamental shift that's happening. Right? What's happening is that very nature of the platform or a product is changing. And the center of gravity of an application or a product is getting shifted from your system architecture, your enterprise architecture, to a model architecture, right? So, of course, the importance of the enterprise and system architecture is not getting diminished, but the center of gravity is slowly shifting. So, when it's becoming a model-centric architecture, what happens is you are actually becoming, most of the decisions, most of the capabilities of the products are getting shifted to the model. So agent creations are primarily going to happen at that level. The ones that are going to create huge value, right, from the platform point of view. While there are going to be several operations agents, right, well, we talk about some of the examples that we also saw here, how to automatically create environments, destroy environments. We saw some supports, some demonstrations that Nisha gave us. Then we also saw the other demonstration. These operation-centric agents will be there, but the real transformation of agent development will be happening at the model level. And what will happen is these agents are going to be primarily deciding the most important the values that any product will be taking forward. From the SDLC standpoint, value will start with development. Pretty much incremental. I'm not seeing a very transformational shift right from day one. This is going to be incremental development, where you will be boxing your agent for a very small feature or a very small workflow to be created, and then it will start, snowflaking it around it, and then it will start becoming a bigger mass. where you will start becoming an agents of agents, super agents, all those things will come. And that will take a little more time from the model point of view. But at IT ops level, agents are going to come very quickly. So that's how I see it. Is there a framework? I mean, there are multiple things. There is no one central framework as such as this is only the framework. This is the framework that we have made around. For example, in some of the experiments that we are doing today, we are even adopting some of the regular SDLCs that we typically are adopting for any standard development, including the agile methodologies, right? For even developing agents, right? What we do, we take up the core functionalities. Of course, I'm not getting into the technicalities of how an agent is getting built, but I'm only talking about the methodology part, right? We are getting into the core piece of functionality, and then we work around it. That's what we do. Right? We are not getting ourselves too kind of into the specificities of frameworks.
Alright. I know you can talk in depth on this, so I vouch for that because we are partners in some conversations.
Yes. So this SDLC one, actually, we started a company. We want to transform the traditional SDLC into I'll say a native era SDLC one. Because we were seeing tremendous growth in the copilots or cursor one, but the real productivity is still under par. What I say that when still people are sitting and giving some kind of prompts and then trying to debug whatever AI gives one. So this is a pain point which we saw some 6 months back, and a couple of friends and we together, okay, why can't we solve this problem? And that's an idea we came up, and we started a company called NVIDI, which is engineering with AI, and it has sound support, the Tamil name also, so that's how we arrived. And we did a 1 week of a brainstorm, how a traditional SDLC will not fit into the current AI one. Okay, because today the code is being written by Claude or Cursor or something in a blazing fast. Okay, if you want any website, within few minutes it builds it, right? But it is actually missing the context. Okay, so we will be, it's like kind of changing the code from an intent. I want to develop a website, or I want to write a kind of a pipeline which will help me to understand my document and then give me a summarized one. Okay, so from an engineering perspective or a software developer perspective, I believe writing code is declining. And then we started giving us a specification. So we are kind of converting as a specification agents or specification developer than writing a code, right? So that's a idea. But how we can solve this current chaos? Because every day Claude is coming up something. Cursor is coming out. Today as a development community, we are studying which way to go. And from a management team, people will say, still, I have given so much of dollars, spent so much of dollars, but the output remains the same, right? So we want to channelize or give a guided path how we can transform the traditional SDLC into a AI native. Okay, so it's like we are just trying to create a framework. Okay, how we can measure it? The productivity is not going to be measured by velocity. Right? No more sprint, because agents can develop code faster. I can do a 24/7 coding, right? So that's how we are working. So the velocity or the metrics which we want to evaluate how the productivity is going to be changed. Like how much token I'm going to use to develop a particular feature. Okay, what is my budget available if I want to develop 10 features instead of I have a 20 team member? Rather, I need to think about how much token I'm going to consume it, how much I'm effectively do that one. So these are some of the metrics which we did a brainstorm. We arrived some kind of a first loop success rate. Like I give an intent, within the first loop itself, it is able to find or write the proper code. Okay. Again, today LLM can write any code, but the validation is a key. Okay, so unless it's not just about unit testing or integration testing, rather it's going to be how I can make sure that LLM gives me a deterministic answer. Okay? So that's how the evaluation frameworks are going on, and how these evaluation frameworks help in the regular development. Okay? So these are three, I'll say, major categories, like how I'm going to define an intent, how I'm going to guide my stories, and then how I'm going to define the validation. Okay? If we do this process, we'll be able to move to an autonomous agent, completely developed remotely. We don't need to spoon feed the agents, say, go do this one. Just do a plan, agents will do the execution. Okay. So I mean, I take a couple of ideas from Rajiv's talk one. Okay, today we have a 5,000 team member one. Okay, how I can increase their productivity, right? Like we can move to, I mean, I'll say best practice of SDLC, how I can clean my tech debt, because we are not spending time on cleaning the tech debt, right? So those 5,000 team members can be evolved. Okay, we'll be able to achieve the true class kind of design practices using those ones. So these are all ways how the SDLC transforming from my view.
Thank you. I think you actually reduced a lot in a short span of time. Whether it is an unambiguous requirements in terms of specificity, whether it is the validation in terms of constraints where we define on the overall contours. You have the boundaries, but you still have the freedom and the speed. And you also have touched on the loop part. That's going to be the atomic measurement on the way how agents are going to be. It's going to be an interesting thing. And you want to anything add on the agents engineering part from the platform side or from the reliability side?
Okay, so from looking at from a platform, till now we are talking about this from a software engineering, from a platform engineering perspective. Again, I'll say how we can define the evaluation and setting up a validation environment as a platform. We talked today in the session when we talked about environment as a service. Okay. So from a platform team perspective, how I can create a validation environment. It is like defining my how we can run the 10 microservices in an environment and ask agent to do the coding on top of it. Okay. So these FM1 environment are creating validation environment. As a platform engineer, will be in a position to play a major role. Okay. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I was taking notes and trying to form my thoughts. It's a good question. Just for data point, right? Last year, with two of our global customers, we built an agent in a factory. Right? And in that one company, we deployed about 14 or 15 agents. In another fintech, a large global payments industry, we deployed around 15 agents. And these agents were deployed in business processes, right? For example, sales and marketing business process, or e-commerce business process, or certain business processes. We also in 2023 we generally in Grid Dynamics we call it PDLC. We never call it SDLC because PDLC is MVP driven. SDLC is IT project start date and end date. Product platform engineering. Generally, it's a journey, it never ends. You keep building on MVP 1, MVP 2, depending on budgets, response to market, and so on and so forth. So in 2023, we built an innovation canvas. We called it innovation canvas, where we built a customer data platform in 1 hour, what would normally take about 4 months. The cycle for designing wireframe itself, normally get a UX designer, get a UX designer to ideate through all the workshops, build a UI wireframe using Figma or some other balsamic or something, and then converting those wireframes into a code. So that itself, we cut down the total Figma generation itself. The AI agent could pick up the Slack conversation. Suppose we are a cross-functional team. You say, I would like this feature, you say, I would like this feature, you say, we give thumbs up and thumbs down. We captured the thumbs up into the MVP1, based on the must know, should know, could know, would know, right? We captured them as a minimum viable MVP1 and converted straight away into wireframe, converted straight away into a GitHub code, all within probably few minutes, right? And then it generated the entire backend, generated the entire memos or diagrams, all within 1 hour. So that is one part. The second piece is, I somehow tend to a little bit disagree respectfully with the KC in the terms of system architecture moving to model architecture. What we have seen is, today whether I use Claude or OpenAI or Llama or Meta, the orchestration layer has become more important. Like for example, all our solutions are agnostic to the company's decision to go with OpenAI or Claude or, we from a service platform engineering notation, we come in, we take the company's decision on policy level that we will go with OpenAI or we will go with Claude, Anthropic and so on. And then from there, we build the entire orchestration layer for the agents. And then focus on role-based access for agents, focus on access to tools for the agents, focus on checks and balances for evaluation and hallucinations of the agents if they are connected to institutional knowledge. You mentioned determinism. So yeah, then we bring in, we seed it with, we do seeding or reduce the temperatures to a lower value and then handle the agents. I think overall the way I see is, imagine you opening up your HR functions and all your functions to agents through institutional corpus, built-in determinism. Now the whole layer comes to the orchestration layer, not on the model. We have never come across a hurdle because of a choice of a model. The choice of a model is a cost-based, budget-based decision taken by the leadership of the companies. So this is my take on one last point. I was, when you were trying to tell me 27 billion or 270 billion agents, a typical agent, your coding agent consumes about 3 to 5 watts when it's doing its code. A 70 billion parameter model consumes about 20 watts of energy. That is equal to 30 medium modular nuclear reactors. Right? So while we may be heading towards an agentic cycle, we would be very gravely stuck to 10 companies in the world who know more than the whole planet. Which is why I feel that there is a huge reason as humanity to create a distributed federated architecture of creating these data centers so that I don't have to depend on Anthropic's data center, OpenAI's data center, and somebody else's data center to run my agents, because it's a national security. So Danny Amode just said, no corporation should have full agentic power, no government should have full agentic power. I will just caution that. I don't know the answers, quite honestly, just like most of us. But like a good engineer, I'm going to be open to it. Yeah.
Thank you.
If I can just Rajesh to this modern architecture points that you're talking about. So one of the classic use cases right here. So especially when you're talking about the fraud detection or the AML use cases, anti-money laundering related use cases, what happens is it's basically now integrated into a model that's able to reason out a very large volume of transactions and start flagging these negative transactions. So that core knowledge of reasoning is getting shifted from a system to a model. So now model is able to give quite a bit of reasoning out, which can be harvested at your product level. And the product, in a sense, is also becoming good. What you said is very, very important. The orchestration problem, where it's not only the model, it could be a combination of multiple models that come together to take the decision, and how that is going to be managed is something that's very essential. The essential point that I was trying to make was that the core heart of the overall product is slowly getting shifted to models, where most of the reason is that. That's what this point is trying to make. And one additional point which possibly will be touching upon in the next area also, in this overlap on that. There are three things that we are saying. One is first the intent, as Praveen said, and then we're also talking about an architectural level decisions fairly clearly explained by the developers and also by the architects, and not necessarily coming up with a lot of complicated ways of policies. Exactly, I think different types of policies. So you create the gardens of your function, even for this platform that is part of your work, right? You set the boundary condition. All these are explained in natural language, right? And you have your skills defined, and then you know what you are. You need to you're telling the agent basically what kind of skill that it needs to pick up and what kind of persona it needs to have while developing. So they're going to where the architects act, they're going to have where the developers act, all those things, and how it is going to be integrated from the development to the testing as well. And that's where certain degree of golden paths are established, right? Right from your golden path for services creation and how this platform and it is actually in the points, what is going to be observed around it. Some observable related to golden path and also some matrices. It is not only the token consumption, so it's very, very important because it's ultimately going down the line. So we need to really fast the board. That's very rightly highlighted how many tokens are being consumed by the model and all this. So we are also talking about we are not going on the traditional matrices that are captured on systems performance that comes to the core as well, core to the output, or how many defects that this model is creating what it is. Exactly. Because getting it first is very, very important. That is when you'll be able to determine the number or reduce the number of development cycles which are going to further consume more and more tokens and then consume more and more cost. So that is where that golden path is getting established and then we create those things and move to the
Actually, thanks, Casey, for slightly moving this to the next problem, right? So I just wanted to summarize the first problem. Here is what my understanding, right? The Google ADKs, which is agent development kits, or even some ABC companies coming out with some XYZ framework, right? Is there a clear winner on developing the agents platform as DLC? There is a significant opportunity. ADKs will not help you to dictate the entire thing. Of course, it takes you around 25 to 30% of aspects of it, but there is much more beyond the ADKs, and there are opportunities there for defining the SDLC space. And the reason for having this as a first topic, this is the foundation. If you do not build the foundation properly, the entire building will collapse. Why we are building agents, make the strong foundation, having a process clearly called out SDLC. Right, so that's where it starts with specificity in terms of requirements, or validation, or success loop metrics, or outcome measurement in terms of KPIs and metrics. So every aspect of it, there are 5 pillars which we can easily define and then check it out. So moving to the next segment in the golden paths, right? So I request probably Karan, if you want to start with this golden paths. I think Casey has already touched on that.
So golden paths are a blueprint. So there are 2 ways we can look at, like from a platform engineering perspective. So we define a blueprint for a microservice to be deployed. Okay. Same way from an agentic angle, how an agents can be defined in a standard way, comprising of, let's say it has to use the guardrails or defined guardrails, and it has to run within a isolated environment, okay? Because the data can go out. Okay? So those are all blueprints from a platform engineering perspective. How a platform engineer can help in the agentic development. Okay? So that's we can think about as an agent infrastructure as a code. Similar to a Terraform, we can come up with how best the agents can be automated and deployed by the developer who is actually working on it. So that's one aspect which will help us on the golden paths.
well said. Is there anything you want to add on before more project fields?
Sure. I think the first founding principle is how do you have a layered architecture. What we've seen in our experience as we have built for larger enterprises. I'm just sharing a few of those nuggets without giving away major IP-related info. One is building a layered foundation for the agents where you separate the task agents from domain agents. So if you need to calculate some FinOps calculation, then you may have an agent which will have access to a calculator and so on, kind of a tool. Or if you want to calculate some other, do some other, like you may need pandas or NumPy, or depending on how the agent, what is the agent supposed to do. And these are simple tasks, but there are domain agents that you are actually referring to, where now that agent has access to institutional data, to proper RAG pipelines and whatever that be. And the agent is now able to execute certain domain-related tasks, right? Product catalog information, and then updating some price information on a regular basis, and so on and so forth for different products. So that is one part. The other second important area is all agents will have their own identity access management. So it's not that managing the agentic life cycle now has become important. So from whom to whom that we were discussing the earlier day. So agentic access through identification of the agents. Then policy enforced as code to make sure that how the agents are going to function with guardrails that Casey was referring to. And then at the infra level, so there's a foundation level of the models which has the intelligence. An agent needs an LLM, an agent needs a tool, and an agent needs memory. So all these three functions are at the infra level where the models are now able to be accessed through an API, depending on the institution. Then the tools that I have access to, that even that is role-based. Not all agents can access all tools, and not all agents can have access to data APIs, and so role-based actions, layered architecture between foundation, orchestration layer, and the infrastructure, and then the guardrails and then policy as code. These are all pieces of the golden path for an agentic platform engineering to make sure that there is determinism, there is consistency, and then you have full control on what agents can do and not do. Yeah?
Thanks, sir. Couple of summaries. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add only one point to this conversation. What I also see is from a platform engineering point of view, an additional area of focus would be around the data, right? Where there would be, we'd be required to create very specific golden paths for the data set management, right? Because data set version is going to be really critical. And also, that's going to be a primitive going forward. While code is definitely the first primitive, the second important artifact in the primitive is going to be data and its associated model. So there's going to be model versioning, there's going to be data set versioning and all those things, and that will be required for us to even talk about how are we going to have these things maintained, increasing the code part, right? So,
in fact, I was able to conclude that in two specific sentences. There are two sample golden paths I just want all of us to remember. One is the validation, another is the human in the loop aspect. The validation part, if the validation is not happening, the overall part is not good. The overall AI agent part is not good. So it is as simple and as focused. If there is no validation, there is no agent building as such. So you need to stop there. That's the golden path, which we need to really take it as a loop. The second part is the human in the loop, human primacy, you can say, right? So humans decide, agents execute. So that's the way the direction has to move, and then that's where you are defining the boundaries. You give all the freedom to play inside the boundaries, and that helps you to garner the fast speed and also able to deliver the value. So I think so. With that, we'll just jump into this most fascinating part of developer experience. But prior to that, I just wanted to pass here. Any questions on these two aspects? Are they really triggering me aspects in your mind, so feel free. We'll give the mics. Anyone has a question?
Is there other question there? Take this one.
Question to Parani. So you mentioned about this framework you are building, and so that has been the fear, on how to control the agent to do, in a more disciplinary way and build the guardrails. And so I'm assuming that is going to be the goal for a lot of engineering teams. So how mature are we in that aspect, and what are the challenges that you are facing in shaping that up from an enterprise scale?
Okay. So I'll take an example from what we are currently building. So we are building some kind of an agents across the SDLC phase. Like there will be a product manager. He will be given some kind of a set of tools and then the MCPs where he can access the enterprise data. So what we are doing is we are trying to do a reverse engineer from the code base. Code base is a source of truth. From that, we are trying to reverse engineer it and then give that knowledge to the program or the product agent. Okay, and define some certain tools. Only those tools can be accessible for that agent, and everything will run in an isolated environment. Okay, the isolated in the sense it's like kind of a Docker where you don't have an access to what is happening in the next environment. So that help us to achieve the guardrails one, whatever you want to talk about, and then the validation environment. Okay, so these focus areas will help us to build those capabilities. That's what I think.
Thank you.
That's a little deeper on this in the GRC aspect as per definition. So that's one of the very critical pain areas in the agentic life cycle. So great question. Any other questions? Alright, so please do ask, we'll just move on to the developer experience. The whole purpose of all this revolution is to make the life of the developer more productive and effective. So, Parani, what do you think, how this space is going to help and transform developer experience? First of all, is that for developers or is it?
Yeah. Interesting conversation. Like today, I have a team member who, 5 years back. Okay, he used to write functional programming very effectively. Okay, so we had a debate between why we want to move to functional. He first is a developer is an artist. Because when you, as a developer, when you write a code, it has to be in artistic. It has to say what it is actually trying to do. Okay. I had the same conversation with him 2 months back. Is he standing telling the same statement right now? He's saying no. Now the agents are developing much cleaner code in a readable way, in a much easier way to understand. So the perception from a development angle is changing. How people writing the code is changing. And from an experience angle, okay. I'll take an example of Backstage. I think in Ford also using, and my previous M2P also we were using the Backstage to give a kind of a self-service catalog or a golden path in a experience, a developer experience way, or in a guided path, so that they can do or onboard much easier. Okay, the same concept we are trying to apply in the agentic one, where we are trying to create an ontology. Trying to find out how the relationship from a software development perspective, purely from a software. I'll say there are 10 microservices available. How these microservices are connected, where it is getting deployed, how it is, what is the Terraform it is using, in which environment it is deployed. Okay, we are trying to collect all these informations from a non-prod, from a prod, how the traces. We're trying to build an ontology. Okay, what is an ontology? It's just a subject predictive and object. It says how these two objects are related. It's a very simple ontology. But when that data is fed to LLM, it will be able to reason it very effectively to identify a problem or to give a kind of an solution for our questions. Okay, so that's from a developer experience, and we are trying to collect all the entities from a software angle and give a kind of an picturized it. It can be data flow diagram, it can be how dependencies are mapped. Okay, so that will be kind of, I mean, I feel there will be much more products coming in the near future that will help us to, the developer, understand how code is being developed, okay, because we are not going to write the code, right? How it is being deployed, how the dependencies are available. So, I mean, I'm just talking about the futuristic one, how the developer experience is going to be transformed. That's my idea.
Thank you. Slightly
Different, yeah.
Casey?
Yeah, see, first of all, on the question that you asked, there will be more developers. I would possibly
Yes,
take
you
it
will more developers.
more developers.
Years.
Yeah, okay. So I would possibly phrase it as, are there going to be more entry-level engineers? Let's put that way in an organization context. Because that will be farther, for much more easier for us to compartmentalize and address that question. The way I'm seeing the whole organization's development team structure is going to be is very different from how it is today. How I'm seeing this is we may not have as such a front-end engineer or a back-end engineer or an API engineer, integration engineer, or things like that, right? There is going to be an SME engineer, that is a person who is functional, who has got significant knowledge in, say, in the e-commerce industry, or in the banking industry, or in any other financial services industry. Those people will incrementally start taking the roles of a front-end, back-end, and also those technical development activities, because they will be enabled by your agents, your coding agents, your SDLC agents. So there is going to be development, of course. No, I'm not trying to tell that all the front-end engineers roles are gone. That's not what I'm saying. The roles of these engineers will be shifted more towards the platform engineering. That's what I'm trying to say. And then what I'm seeing here is you will be having the functional people who will be able to come up very quickly with your prototypes and with your partially functioning systems, with entry-level MVPs, which will further be developed your core architect-level engineers who will be taking the product to the next level. And then we'll be having your team, platform engineering team, combined with your SREs. And then you will be having infrastructure. I think that's a kind of a combination of team structures we'll be moving towards. So having said this, when it comes to developer experience, which is the segment that we're talking about, the developer experience is going to be distributed big time from the perspective that it's going to be intent-led. It's not going to be the service catalogs. I mean, today we are using it exponentially. There are a lot of services catalogs. We are able to spin up services, and we are able to follow certain golden paths, apply golden paths for particular activity. But what I think is there are three players who are in the system, who are going to be in the system. Today is human versus computer, or human versus systems. Tomorrow is going to be, or it's already humans, agents, and your underlying computers, or infrastructure, or your compute devices, or storage devices, whatever it is, right? So there is going to be a layer involved, right? And when an intent is given, the intent is going to be picked up by agents. The agents will determine the best action that needs to be taken up for achieving that particular intent. It will be broken down internally into multiple services automatically, and these services will be validated by the human in the loop. And human will give an approval, or the human will reject a certain activity, and then it will be further be delegated to an agent of agents who is going to be who will be governed by a platform engineering team. And that agent of agents is going to be having your dedicated agents for any of the IT operations you will be required to do. So this is where I think that platform engineering team has got an elevated role to play going forward in the way they will be having a seat in the enterprise architecture community and not being seen very closer to the IT ops as they are seen today. That is the way I think it is going to be shifted.
How soon or how long?
I don't really have a crystal ball to say that. Possibly maybe in about a couple of years, this will be there as well.
Yeah, I was
I think we are expecting a lot from you. You
No,
are
I was
much closer in the service industry.
I was pondering on some few good things that KC mentioned. Just as a data point, we recently submitted a
But he spilled the beans. Actually. He started somewhere, but he landed somewhere.
Right. So we recently gave a proposal for AI harness augmented agentic SRE engine. And I'm not going to give you exact numbers, but we said the starting team starts with X number of engineers, and when the platform is enforced into the system, these X numbers of engineers are reduced by 65%. And after that, the mean time to acknowledge or response time, mean time to restore, the MTTR, everything has changed exponentially, which the IT industry has never seen before. So that is one part. So that is one. Number two, in our internship program, we are not trying to build interns. When they graduate after 6 months, they will have developer qualities of a 2 to 3 year experience engineer. So we have written a task as to what a 3 year engineering experience engineer can do using coding assistance. They will soon be given access. Initially, we start with our Grid University courses, but they will soon get access to all these cursors of co-pilots of the world and the cloud access and Jira access. All the accesses are given. And the goal is to create an engineer that comes to us from an 8th semester of engineering and then becomes an engineer after 6 months equal to 3 years of engineering experience. Right. Third piece, my guideline to the India team is today we hit at some revenue number with say 800 engineers, billable engineers. That number has to double with 40% lower engineers. Right. So I'm just trying to give you a real data-based insight. The engineers are not going away. Remember that. The engineers are going to do a much profound work much faster. That age of abundant existence that Dennis Hasabi says is this actually. There are organizations like even Ford or any, they can create 10x revenues in a very short time, which they've never heretofore imagined, with a very small workforce. That is huge for a CXO at PNL level. So the engineers will be doing more. The engineers will move up the value chain at orchestration layer. Because you don't have to worry about the model. You don't have to worry about fine-tuning a model. Yes, you may fine-tune a model. If it is very specific to your domain, you may do that. Other than that, your prompt, I mean, of course, there are perils of white coding, and I will not advise anybody to get into white coding if you're not a good engineer. We just saw Amazon paid a heavy price for white coding just a few days ago. So it's not that you're a smart dude from MBA from Harvard and you start white coding. It doesn't work like that. So these are some of the data points I want to share. Engineering as a branch will really be reimagined. For example, just for the data point, we started with building an autonomous SRE engine, landed up building a developer portal integrated with an AI ops engine, integrated with IT operations dashboard, integrated with FinOps. So you see, otherwise, 3 years ago, I would have built an AI ops engine. Today, when we started brainstorming, I want to know how many pull requests were done by the agent or by the, I want to know how many SAFE1 and SAFE2 tickets were handed by the agent to a human in the loop. I want to know all these data points where the humans take over very business critical tasks and agents are looking at P3, P4 tickets. So we started with a AI ops landed up with building a developer level, pull request level portal integrated with all this. So the boundaries are blurring with the agentic platform, that engineers are not going away. Engineers with AI assisted capabilities will always be there, and your value will increase to